Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Edisham Khan, and I'm with Peekage, a digital sampling platform. Here at the Fireside Chat, we discuss new trends in digital marketing. And today, I'm so excited to have with me our first guest, Joelle Russo, over 30 years of experience as Nordstrom Beauty Director. How are you doing today, Joelle?
I am doing great. How are you?
Good, good, doing well, doing well. Today, like I mentioned, we'll be discussing topics in digital marketing, specifically pivots that brands have been making during this COVID time. Joelle has had a number of years of experience in the industry and worked with literally hundreds of different brands. So today, she'll be sharing her experience, of course, as well as some practical advice to go along with it. So before we jump into some of the more detailed things that have been going on this year, I'd like to start off in a more general tone. What do you think is going to endure in retail in 2021 and moving forward? And what do you think it has to change?
Well, that's a big one. I think what needs to stay constant is the customer experience and being connected to the customer. I mean, that's really ultimately what you want. And I think we have to find new and innovative ways to do that. Obviously, with COVID, things are a little different. A customer used to be able to come into a store and have a seat at a beauty counter and have a great experience. Well, now things are a little different because we want to obviously make sure the customer's safe and also the employees are safe. So, how things work now is a little different. So, I think the biggest thing is how can we get the customer to engage in all the different platforms that are out there? And I think it starts with finding those ways, whether it's having a chat with a beauty advisor, on FaceTime or looking at how-to videos. Obviously, I think we see a lot on social media with influencers and beauty bloggers. And so, how do we take that information and really translate it to getting the customer either in the store or obviously buying product? So, I think that's the most important thing is how do we stay customer centric? We've got to make sure the customer is always at the forefront of our minds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know you touched on this a bit, but what role do you think technology will play in all
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there definitely is a lot of technology out there, and there are some people that are really comfortable, doing um, Zoom calls and FaceTimes and things like that. And then there's others that obviously it's a little scary. It's not something that's normal for them. So I think that when a customer is either online, trying to search for their product of choice or looking for something new, it's really important to find a way to get a great sample in their hand too. So if they're purchasing online and they've got their tried and true products, the products that they know work for them, how do we get them something new, innovative and emerging brand or something that we know that they probably will love trying? How do we do that? So, we've got to ask questions. We've got to find a way to get some intel from that customer on what are they looking for so we can give them that, new launch product or something that we want them to try. It's just important to find a way to get a sample, I think, in their hand. And it's very different now. You used to be able to go into a store and, ask for a sample, and all that is definitely different. We want to make sure it's safe. Obviously, if we're handing them something, and we need to follow up with them. We can't just give them the sample and think that they can go home or do it at home and know what to do. How do we follow up with that customer? Because that's the most important thing. We give them a great sample, something that they fall in love with. Maybe they're unsure again. Are they using it correctly? Or I love that sample. Now, what do I do? So, how do we find those ways to stay connected to the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right in alignment with what we've been seeing at Peakage as well, recreating that experience at home
Right.
that we used to have at retail and in stores. And, that's one thing that we come across a lot is younger, newer brands wanting to separate themselves from the pack. And they can't go with these older methods that they had. And that was one question I wanted to really inquire about was what advice would you give younger brands, newer brands? What can they do to
Mhm.
separate themselves from the pack?
Well, I think the biggest thing is how do you get that product in the customer's hand? It's really important. I think what you guys are doing, is definitely something on the forefront and applaud you for doing this, because again, those conventional ways to get that sample or try that new product is very different. So I think when a customer is on social media or is searching for that new product, and we've got to get it in their hands. So whether it's, with a purchase, and trying to get that information from the customer of what are they really going to want with this particular purchase, what sample is going to work for them, and then finding a way to connect with them, finding, maybe it's a how to on the sample, or maybe it's a, go to this link if you're interested to find out how to use this or what you should be doing. Sharing those features and benefits of the sample, I think is so important. We can't just give them the sample and think that they're going to be able to, go home and use it the right way. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So staying connected to the customer ultimately is what we need to do. And getting the sample in their hand and getting them to try it and then getting that feedback, I think is so important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You hit on all the things that we've been seeing from brands on our side as well too. Is feedback is
Mhm.
super important. It's
Yeah.
the feel of a cream, the smell, the look of your skin after you apply it. So many different things come into play,
Mhm.
and a lot of that is like we mentioned, recreating that experience at home. One thing that you touched on definitely was personalization. Is really getting the customer feedback, really getting the support and the long-term value from the customer. How do you think technology can affect those things? And what would you suggest for any brand looking to start doing a sampling campaign or something like
Yeah, I think, you have to hear from the customer. That's the most important thing. You need to find out, number one, are they looking for that new mascara, and how do we get it in their hands? And then how do we get that feedback? Very, very important to find out what did they love about it? What did they not like about it? And how can we move forward? I think that's really important. But again, for an emerging brand, which is so hard right now, how do you get that product in their hands? How do you get that sample to them? Things are very different. People are probably feeling a little more comfortable in shopping online and possibly not going into the stores where, that was very different a year ago today. So I think, again, what you're doing is to be able to get that sample to them at the comfort of their home and have them try it. And again, get the feedback. So that's where it all starts. Is we have to, they've got to touch it. You hit on it. They've got to touch it, they've got to
that?
smell it, they've got to feel it, they've got to experience it. And the only way to do that is get it to them in a safe way where they feel comfortable trying it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and you're exactly right. People are spending more time at home, of course, with everything that's going on, and people are on
Mhm.
Zoom calls, Zoom meetings, and I know for myself, I was touching up my hair a little bit this morning with some product, and everybody's worried about
Absolutely.
how they're looking and want to look camera ready, if you will. And I was just curious to know what are some of the changes or trends that you've seen in makeup or cosmetics in this new world that we're living in.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's really think about it. In the beginning of, Zoom calls and working from home, it was a little different. And, then you start to look at yourself on camera and you're thinking, wow, I need to really do something a little different here to um, look a little bit more presentable for work or a Zoom call. If people unfortunately are having to date on Zoom calls as well. So I think people really took a look at how everything is looking on these calls and told themselves they've got to do something different. We've seen definitely an uptick in skincare, so getting our skin at its best possible form is most important. I think I would recommend that to anyone. I think it's the canvas for everything that we do. All of the little makeup and all of those wonderful things are the extra, but your skin definitely needs to look at its best. And again, like I said, sales are up in skincare. Also creating that ambiance, I think, at your desk or at your home, and whether it's a great candle or a home fragrance, all of that makes us feel good as well. One thing I was thinking about too is look at the trends now for people, having to color their hair at home or do their nails at home. Even that's, we had that luxury of being able to go out and do those things where now, we've got to do it ourselves. So definitely, I think those things have definitely changed in the beauty world.
Yeah, absolutely. I know myself. just having the experiences more at home and having the trials at home has changed things. I'm sure most folks have the Amazon delivery guy or UPS guy visiting their house a little bit more than normal. And I know for myself, getting a nice little treat in that way almost replaces that in-store feeling that you get, or that sense of customization or personalization, or somebody going in there and recommending products. That's more of a replacement for today's world, I find,
Right.
and that's what we've been seeing as well. So one thing I wanted to touch on is, with the AR VR functions that are available to a lot of these larger brands, that can only go so far. Of course, we know that seeing a lipstick color on is great, but it's maybe not the same as trying on a luxury lipstick or a moisturizer or what have you. I know you mentioned sampling. Is there anything else that folks can do or younger brands can do in terms of technology or those types of advances?
Yeah, what I'm seeing a lot is having those personalization calls. So whether it's
Uh,
like what we're doing today,
uh,
a FaceTime call, I think it's important if you've got a favorite beauty advisor or you're looking to try something. I think it's important to have that face-to-face connection where an experienced beauty person can look at you and say, okay, let's talk about your skin, or let's talk about what you are looking for. I think that's the human connection we need. And I think that will obviously help the customer then feel like this is personalized to me. Someone is looking at me and listening to me in a very safe way.
That's exactly right. I feel like that's going to be huge, going forward into this
Hmm.
year, where unfortunately we see not a lot is changing anytime soon.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when there was these larger Nordstrom trend show events. There would be showcasing of new brands, launching of products. That's
Mhm.
not really existing that much anymore. In terms of brand launches and awareness, anything or any advice you can give to folks that really relied on those types of events or those types of freelancers or everything that goes along with that.
Right. Absolutely. I think kind of just going back to what we just recently spoke about is, how do you get the word out there that something is new or something, you know, that we think the mass would appreciate trying? So maybe it's, using an influencer or using, an email to send to someone and say, click on this link and listen to our new product, listen about it, and then getting it to them. I think that's the most important thing is we have to find a way to get it in their hands. I mean, ultimately, isn't that what we all want, is to be able to get the product into the customer's hand and then hear their response and hopefully purchase. I mean, that's really what we're looking for. I don't think it's simple. I think that we sometimes overcomplicate it. So let's kind of go back to those simple ways of getting the information to the customer, getting them to try it, and then hopefully hearing their feedback. So that's what I would recommend to any brand, is finding a way to get connected to that customer, however they feel that they can do that, and then obviously getting them the sample for them to try.
It really is getting back to basics. Like you said,
Mhm.
it's so funny because a lot of those same basic things that we were able to do in the really big retail
Mhm.
days and the big event days, we're not able to in the
Yes.
same way, but we can still do. We may have to pivot and adjust our strategies, but
Mhm.
once again, it's all about getting them to try it, the feedback, and personalization and customization. And I love how you touched on so many different ways of doing it. Sampling, of course, but there's also influencers, there's reviews, there's social media.
Mhm.
There's just no one magic bullet. It's a combination of all
Mhm.
that. Yeah, and I think you
Right.
you really displayed that beautifully. Thank you. So, Joelle, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the call. Really appreciate your time. I know this is going to be very valuable for a lot of folks that are trying to launch new products or build up their brand, etc. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This has been, of course, our first episode. We'll continue to do more fireside chats with more amazing guests like Joelle. Thanks so much, Joelle, again, and happy to have
No
you as our
problem.
first guest. Thanks.